Hi. Hello. May your intentions for truth, your intentions for healing or health, your intentions for bettering yourself be uplifted and supported. May the land, atmosphere, home, plants, animals, children, family, and your lives be supported and uplifted. May you be safe and healthy, and always sending thoughts and well wishes to all of those who are struggling. I know everyone's kind of struggling right now, but I'm talking about what's happening in the world. So before I get totally started, I want a clarification on the days of the the days of the week, days of the 9-day week, and the planets. So in my last video, I have it that that the alignment of planets from Earth to Pluto is Earth, Mercury, Venus, and then I had it, then Mars, and then I had Saturn, then Jupiter. And I was kind of wondering about that because I'm not for sure, but I think Saturn's number, actually I think it's 8. Okay. Anyhow, Jupiter is closer to the Earth than Saturn is. So the sequence would go like this: Earth, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Okay. And I've been practicing the days and checking in with the energies and feeling the moon, and it seems to be, I like it. It feels more balanced. For example, yesterday was Earth Day. Would have been the energy that would have been focused towards the Earth, and we are in a waxing crescent, and I actually think we're at the quarter right now, but it would still be considered a waxing crescent. There's certain days that we name the moon first, second, third, fourth quarter. So today would be Mercury energy. Right, so we're being told it's Saturn's energy because of the 7-day week. Today is the 20th. So Mercury relates to the number 2, to the twins. And so here we are on the 20th, which according to Gematria, we don't include the 0. I'm doing that deep sigh because the symbol of the circle is the 0, but it's all inclusive. Anyhow, we don't include that symbol when doing the numbers, and so it matches. It's very interesting. I find that it matches to the numbers of the month. The energy feels much more normal. It doesn't feel like a Saturn's energy today. It does feel more like a Mercury's energy today. And one of the things I've been thinking about is, so maybe today would be a day where the energy of Mercury, the messenger of Mercury, the intelligence of Mercury is then shared with, say, Saturn, since we're on a day that is named for Saturn. And I think that's it as far as, so then tomorrow would be Mars instead of Sunday, or Mars with the sun. And so it's very interesting because if you think about the possibility of like the elite, you know, even to call it the elite, those who are actually practicing darkness, you know, dark intentions on the whole mass of the world. So if they know this energy, they're practicing on the 9-day week calendar. They're going off the energy of the moon because they know how extremely powerful the moon's energy is. it would make sense. And then also the planets' energies. Mercury is the closest, and you utilize, because Saturday for most people is a day of going, okay, if you're not 7-day Adventist or practicing where Saturn's day is the Sabbath day, or the 7th day is the Sabbath's day, then most people are actually out shopping. So the message and the energy is shopping and materialism, right? Not that that is bad. It's that if we're working towards getting away from that kind of control energy, we have to understand, I think, that there is a control energy happening. And so a little bit today we're going to talk about agendas, but I want it all to go back to the female first. Okay. So recently someone, thank you very much, sent me a PDF of some information about the Bible that I call the Sybil, and the story again about Cumae. So this story, you can look it up online. It's also in the books of Mama Zogbe's about the Sibyls, or Mami Watas. Okay, and the story about Cumae is that she had 9 books, and she was going to offer them Tartan, I think was his name, king, offer them to a king for 300 gold pieces. Okay, so we're looking at some numbers right there. Okay, 9 and 3, or 300. Okay, and he refused the books, and she burned 3 of them, and then he refused the books, and then she burned 3 more, so there were only 3 left, and then he bought them for the same price. Right, she never lowered her price. Well, with all the misinformation and with the extreme magic that's being constantly focused on, being used every single day against us to oppress our emotional bodies, to oppress our mental bodies, to oppress our spiritual bodies, so that we do not, you know, aspire to what we are truly capable of. Okay, and so within that story, I'm wondering if she actually did burn those books, just like the story of Alexandria, the library being burned. Did it really burn? Do we know? You know, we weren't there. There's so much history that we don't know for sure because we weren't there. Yet to me, a lot of the information that the planet has shared with me, that's, or God, you know, that I don't know if there's a difference between the two as far as I'm concerned. You know, I don't know for sure is what I'm saying. Like, we've been taught these certain things, and so, or the story's been retold to us. And I just think even in that story, it shows like the worth of the books, but also like the importance of the books. Were they so important that she would burn them, knowing that they would only get so much information? Was the 3rd book so gigantic that we turned it into the AKA Bible, or the Torah, or the Quran? And so I linked that into that first divide, that first mistruth. And what I see in a lot of the those that are figuring out certain truths, like some that say that there are aliens. Okay, I think that's possible, or they're us in the future, or there's other living beings. I've always thought that, right? Even as a kid, being like, really, there's no life on any other planets? How do we know that? You know, it's the same thing. Like, how do we know these things? We don't know for sure. And so with the feminine, or with the woman, females first, as far as like the teachings. And I mean, even a lot of the ways, like we look at Judaism and we look at indigenous peoples, it's the women that are uplifted. And certain way you say a woman's name, it is capitalized rather than made small. And typically the male is told that they are, not told that they are, but it's kind of made obvious that the woman is of a higher rank. And then Hebrew, like, I'm wondering, was it always called Hebrew? Did it used to be called Hebrew? You know, like, there's so many things. There's so many things. So I've started studying a little bit of Hebrew. Very fascinating. I mean, in religion, there is also, so education and religion are absolutely connected, because, say, like my parents learned Latin in church. They went to Sunday school. Well, specifically my dad, who was a Catholic, went to Sunday school and he was taught Latin. If you are Jewish, you learn Hebrew. That's a, you know, if you are Muslim and you read the original, or you read the most popular printed Quran, I believe that's in Arabic. So each religion, I mean, I don't know all religions, but the main ones seem to carry bilingualism, extra tongues, right? So we can see how even tongues, speaking tongues, and religion are related. So education, learning, is considered, you know, something spiritual. And these were all things that were kind of taken from the woman, and the woman was then deemed a witch. And so recently, so I want to talk a little bit about the words witches and warlocks, okay? And I'm gonna revisit some words like pagan and heathen, because it is belief systems and fears that amplify words, and then we create meaning, and then it then gets, you know, misconstrued, because pretty much all words came from some symbol somewhere. They're either named after a symbol or she named it. You know, states, countries, all named after women. And these are things that are quite obvious, yet because of the way that the world goes, we may not see it. Okay. So, the word pagan. If you research that word and say a thesaurus or an older book that isn't so much printed recently, you will find that the definition means people of a certain area. Typically they were brown skinned and they lived in the earth. There is also an indigenous tribe called the Piegans. And in our American culture, many of the indigenous practices were demonized and were actually made illegal. Most of the control over the whole American government, United States, I can't speak for other countries, but I'm guessing it's similar, is the indigenous peoples were moved off their lands. First, they were literally slaughtered, moved off their lands, renamed, some of them renamed based off of their dialect, because a lot of the indigenous people were able to communicate with all types of other indigenous peoples. There were just ways of doing it. You strip them of their language, and then what is remaining is made illegal. And then what people are, man, I was just listening to a tribe called Red Radio on Pandora, and in the beginning of the song he says, they took our people. They came and they took our people across the seas to Europe and to Africa. I've listened to that song for the last 2 years. How did I not hear that? You know, I mean, there's a lot of indigenous peoples telling us, you're not from Africa. And then there were people who we were told, like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, that we were told were African American. And they both have highly recognized speeches that literally tell us we are not from Africa. In Martin Luther King's speech, he says, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. And Malcolm Little, or Malcolm X, Little is a very common name for a lot of indigenous people of the United States. So a lot of African Americans have the last name Little, and very well possibly are related to this indigenous group. You know, and I think that this is why the women are being targeted and attacked and disappearing. I think that there is a supernatural spiritual event happening and has been happening since basically the 60s. So I think the esoteric groups that have known the information knew that there would be a time where there would be a civil rising, because if we're going to talk about Kimei, she cursed them. She cursed those who were stealing away the feminine and the truth and the magic, and said, we will come back. We'll come back and rectify this stuff, right? And it won't be it will just be that basically the crumbling of those that have risen themselves above, which would be, you know, certain groups, will be exposed, and that the Great Mother will rise again, okay, and you know, heal the peoples, so to speak. So I think that the perpetuated idea and patterning of narcissism and abuse in the system, and internal abuse and compensation, using the laws of the universe plus the laws that remain within our own bodies against us without us even knowing. We're not even being taught this. And those who do bring the information of like, hey, this is going on and we're being taught this, are you know, think people like me are crazy and have conspiracy theories. And sure, I have my paranoia, because a lot of shit has happened. Some horrible things have happened on this planet, and some really weird things have happened to me personally in my personal life. And so, yeah, I'm gonna have some paranoia. That doesn't mean that what I'm feeling and getting from the planet isn't correct. Anyone who knows me knows that I've always been suspicious of the government, you know, certain things they tell us, and question things like, this doesn't really make sense. How come everybody's just going along with it? It's really frustrating, and it can be really depressing. And we have so many stories ingrained in us, like the story of Roots. You know, look that up. Look it up. Look the history. Look up the story of Roots. Google plagiarism and Roots. You know, it's like, I didn't know that. That book led me to being interested in African American studies and African studies and everything not here. I mean, I was still interested in the indigenous people too, because if there is anything that is the closest to the African culture, it would be the indigenous culture here, right? So, of course, we might be attracted to that or have similar ways, right? Yet, there's all these blocks of history, the feminine, the indigenous, you know, that have just been like removed, retold. And in his song, he's like, 500 years. Haven't we all been, how is it that they are also saying 500 years? And we're saying 500 years. But we're supposed to be a different race. And that whole division, right? Oh, it's just, because we've done this so many times, y'all. We've done this so many times, and we've been so many different things. We're not just a race. Like, that's so limited. Right? It's just so limiting to what we're really capable of. So I digress, because I think the agendas that are happening, so what is considered like the homosexual agenda. It's been going on for about 20 years. It's pretty prominent in media. And I think it's a way to still include the feminine movement, because if we go back to the beginning of when like people like Kume were highly influential, and deities that we consider like myths and stuff, like Athena, and those were apparently real people, right? I believe they were real people. And, you know, like Helen of Troy, there must be some truth to it, otherwise there wouldn't be these stories, okay? So, with that aspect, when certain priests were, I've done a video about this before, when certain male priests were moved by the divine feminine, they would voluntarily castrate themselves in the moment, and there would be no pain, because they were so, you know, I know a bunch of people are like, you know, and then let their bodies be made into basically like a female body. So transgender is not anything new, but it is something that stems from when the female was a more prominent and uplifted figure in the world and in religion and in all things important, education, okay? And I think the agenda is to, I mean, we see it everywhere where male energy, especially the female part of the male energy, is being used, especially in ley lines and cathedrals where there's singing going on. Young boys singing. Why don't they use young girls? What is that about? They want the high-pitched voices, but they have to be male? Yes, because they're using the female side that still exists within the child. Because once they hit puberty, they can't be in choir anymore. Then they move on to the different part, right? And so constantly, there was a deal made. In order for those that control the dark magic have to continue giving to the mother. Okay? And so in order to continue giving to the mother without giving actually to women or uplifting women, this is how it looks. So that control can be maintained, while most people are oblivious as to the multitude of tactics that have been and are being used to manipulate our minds. So that brings me to the fun one, because this kind of came to me recently. I was like, why didn't I see this before? So to those who, so I will say this, blue, here, like this, okay. I will say this, there were giant trees. We did have a different atmosphere. I mean, there's proof around, you know. There were giants. There are remaining pyramids. There are remaining villages and towns built in and upon mountains that most of us would be like, how much further is it? I'd be like, wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. There's so much, I mean, there's so much in the Grand Canyon. There's places, you know, people are being told the earth is being overpopulated, but that's because you guys live in cities. Do you know how much land is being bought up that people don't live on? Millions of acres, okay? It's all to control. So, all right, so those parts, yeah, those things are real. Now, a flat earth, possible. A built moon, possible. A built sun, possible. So what does that mean? Wouldn't that mean that we are actually capable of doing that? We would be capable of creating whole planets. If we're under some, you know, illusion and the earth is flat, which I don't think it is, You know, I'm not saying that it's not. It very well could be. I did, for a moment, think, wow, really? The earth is flat? And then I came to this conclusion. Well, until I can actually, you know, fly on my own, I won't know for sure. I mean, I definitely think that they have switched around measurements of the earth and given the illusion that things are farther apart than they really are. I think they rely on kind of our trusting their information. But as far as the earth being totally flat, I don't know about that. I don't know. But if it is, and all this stuff is built around us, then they're literally telling us this is what we're capable of. You know? And so, the rise of the feminine and the truths, I think, are coming out, which is like, oh yeah, and then I was going to get to that word, those words. So like pagan, heathen. Heathen is named after the heath plant, which grows in the country, which is where we get the name heather, because it has really beautiful flowers, right? And yet we call people who aren't Christians heathens. Like, you're basically demonizing a plant to be able to dehumanize a person, to be able to decide if they need, you know, a certain kind of treatment because of how they believe, you know. And so they've given names to those who worship the earth, and the other names they gave those people were witches and warlocks. And so there is, you know, according to Thoth, and I think this is the easiest way to say it, there is a dark brother and sisterhood, and there is a light brother and sisterhood. Kind of like Darth Vader, you know, the Force, right? And that if we're unaware that there is a dark force being focused against us, then we're just kind of going along in life like everything, you know, this is how it is. And then once it's kind of been brought where you can see where mind control can come in, emotional control can come in, spiritual like fatedness or disappointment, because, you know, when a faith is ruined through either education or religion or a certain belief, that can be, you know, life-changing, totally life-changing, and not always for the better, right? And then right now, like, to me, this is what's going on. It's about working against the body, working against naturopathic healing, which is like fresh air, touch, and doing things that you enjoy. And then we add upon it extra stresses, the weather manipulation that's happening right now. And that just, if they can do it, we can do it. That's all I gotta say. Like, if they can do it, we can do it. We can manipulate the weather also. We have the mind to create this. We have the capability. Half of what is happening is actually them embedding these ideas and stories and theories into us daily, having us thinking it, having us mentally creating it and seeing it and being afraid of it, and then it manifests. Thoughts become things, right? This is like one of the secrets. And so until we're able to, until I'm able to, right? Because that's been the hard thing, is I could see it outside of me, but then I was like, oh man, how do I do it within me? And it takes practice because the pattern is ingrained. The pattern is ingrained, but so is the divinity, and so is the magic, right? That is also ingrained. And so this is the time that I think that Mother or whatever deity that you connect with, spirit guides, so to speak, the inner wisdom is awakening, And all forces are against that. They don't want us to be able to say, okay, wait, shouldn't things be based on 9? Wait a second. Isn't everything come from basically a woman? Wait a minute. Is it possible that a lot of the things we've been taught are not true so that they can control us? How about what's happening right now? How much do we understand about that? How much are we questioning? How much are we just going along with everything, you know? And so, that's basically my share. It's about recognizing there are certain agendas. And so, and also the reminder, like, if they can do it, we can do it. So, check in with the 9-day energy calendar. Okay. And then, yeah, witches and warlocks, right? I mean, there's Glenda the Good Witch, right? And then if you get into the story behind actually the whole Wizard of Oz, you know, both witches have good and bad qualities. And so witches is a word that was developed to demonize women. And warlocks was a name to bring fear towards men with certain, maybe more feminine or super powerful abilities. Like mind control. Right? So I'm just questioning the whole thing about like fallen angels and all of that, because we're all everything. I think all humans are the fallen angels. Here we are, we're on Earth. Like, what? This is one of the most dense places. You know, we're here for a purpose, right? And God created everything. God created everything. Everything. And so that means everything is possible. You know, I think from what we've learned, we were created to live forever. And that's by being healthy. And most of our unhealthiness is based off of stress and unresolved emotions and unheard emotions and unhealed, you know, problems. You know, like, how do I heal myself, and where do I donate for helping bring awareness to what's happening to the indigenous women, to what's happening to women, to what's happening in the world, and actually bring about like safe places. Like, where are all the men? Can they start, you know, surrounding these places, being escorts? Man, I'm just like, my heart is breaking for the world. Can't we see? Oh yeah, and I wanted to mention this. So, football stadiums and stadiums in general are usually on ley lines, and the ley lines are connected to the pyramids, and the pyramids connect to all the lines across the whole entire world, and that is to bring. She's just really in today. That is to bring the mental control under certain energy. You know, like there's a huge ley line at the border in San Diego, right? California. So this is very interesting, right? Because these are energies that we may not be fully aware of that are working. Which is so frustrating. Anyhow, I had heard a long time ago that more abuse happened to women on football game days, especially Super Bowl day. So, and I had recognized a long time ago from movies like Against All Odds and a couple of other movies like, I think, The Last Boy Scout, that there's stuff happening in all forms of sports that's based on betting and all this stuff. And I just figured something sneaky behind it. So I stopped watching football. And I used to love, like, football. It was fun doing, But also, I made a lot of bad choices after watching football games, right? I actually contributed to my own abuse, really. And probably abusing others under the guise of, like, drinking, having fun, and being together with friends, right? So I stopped watching football a while back ago. And then now we're recognizing, like, how much gematria and a lot of these rituals and manipulations are constantly being used within sports and politics, and how women are constantly, objectified, subjected, and oppressed, or made examples of. I mean, don't y'all see it? So, it's not about the agenda to, like, turn everyone gay. It's the agenda of everyone accepting a masculine, feminine representation, which isn't, I'm not against that if it uplifts women and helps bring equanimity. But I am against it if it's to continue dividing people, continue to having a patriarchal hold over the world, basically, and misconceptions about health and healing and witches and warlocks and angels and demons. Like, if somebody doesn't believe in Jesus, are they a demon? If somebody who represents Jesus but does really horrible things, are they a demon? I mean, who's to decide these things? What I think it is what am I doing and what are you doing? Are they healthy choices? Is it benefiting me? And if I know it's not a healthy choice, I know I have to make the steps to change that. It's going to be difficult, and I got to try to do it, because if there is a group out there that doesn't have emotions and feeds off of other people's emotions, then I need to get my shit together so that I can stop feeding a group of darkness that's what they want, actually, right? I could be against it all I want to, but unless I change my own ways and unless I decide my own way, I'm gonna get ate up. I already have been devoured, I think. So it's to, stop letting these things happen, and yes, remind us, like, okay, so they're doing all this for a reason, and the reason is you can fly, you can live forever. Your ancestors built pyramids. Your ancestors did so many things and were capable of so many things that want to keep you distracted, sleep deprived, unhealthy, and convinced that you're going to die. When the truth is, you can live as long as you want, as healthily as you want it, as happily, so to speak, without, as content as possible, because every basic mindset is for healing and health, and not in the way of, like, control, which even I was in the pattern of. Each person has their own path of healing. Each person. And it's hard because we want to, we want to think that we know, I'd have, and we want to think that we can help others, and we can. So we reach out to those who are asking for it, and we continue to also help ourselves. So I think I was all over the place as usual. May you, your families, the land around you, the atmosphere around you, what you pray for in the benefit and the helpings of others, and in the practice of reversing these gigantic, continuous that's being put upon us. Continuous, gratitude is what we remember. Continuous recognition of the pieces of nature around us, whether it's a blade of grass, a tweeting bird, some raindrops, and understanding that if they're using something magical towards us, that means that we are exceptionally magical, and not in a magical thinking kind of way, like everything's wonderful, but like, no, like we got to focus and take time to say, planet, I feel you. Mother Nature, I feel you. She has the ability to say, and we can help her, I think, once we help ourselves. Is also what she said, like take care of ourselves so we can help her. Okay, and your families, your children, be supported, uplifted. All right, see you next time.